Good morning, students. So now in today class, let us see this Newton's laws of motion. So which is an interesting topic, and which is the basic for this remaining upcoming topics, mechanics topics, right? And so all of you are having idea about this Newton's laws, I think in our lower classes. And so now let us see about this. First, I will discuss the Newton's laws, and I will start with that related concepts now. So now I am going to discuss about this Newton's laws here. So first I am defining this Newton's laws here. So the previous part kinematics which we discussed there, and so then that is in that we don't discuss about this concept of force, right? So we never used the concept of force in that Newton's laws topic. Just we that means in kinematics topics. So just we used that velocity, acceleration, and displacement topics only, right? And so that means there we don't consider the cause of motion, and here in Newton's laws topic, in dynamics topics, we discuss about this cause of motion here, so which is nothing but the force. And so now let us go to the statements directly here. After that statement, I will explain that one by one in detail here, what are the required quantities, the different terminology here. So then Newton's laws, the first law. So in that first we are going to discuss about this first law here, Newton's first law. So all of you know that I think Newton's first law statement. So write that statement first. Every body continues in its state of rest or uniform motion unless it is acted upon by a force to change its state. So that means here if you are taking that the best example for this is you may consider any object surrounding us. If you are taking suppose a bench, a table or a chair, so that means those objects are at rest, right? Those objects are appears to be at rest for us. That means they are with respect to us, they are at rest. Now if they that means unless no force acts on that object, the chair or table or that building, whatever the building surrounding to you, that will remain at rest only, right? So that means if you are pulling that chair, if you are applying some external force on that chair, then that chair starts moving. So if you are not applying any external force on that, the chair will remain in its own place only or its own state only. Your own state means that is initially at rest, so it will remain at rest only. So that means that similarly if an object is moving, if you want to stop that object, so then definitely we should apply some external force here. So that means that force is necessary to change the state of an object. So that means this Newton's first law will introduce the concept of this force here. So that means if the object is at rest, so to start the motion here, we should apply some force here. If you are applying this force initially at rest here, initially the object is at rest. So that means initially this object is at rest. If you want to push this object, then this force is required. Or if suppose this object is already moving with some velocity here, initially if it is moving, to stop this object, then we should apply some force here. So that means that force is required to bring a moving object to rest or to set a body which is at rest into motion. So that means that force is a physical quantity which changes or tries to change the state of an object, right? So that is nothing but the force that was introduced by this Newton's first law here. So write that Newton's first law introduced the concept of force. Newton's first law introduced the concept of force and inertia. So it also introduced the concept of inertia. So we will discuss now about this inertia. So it introduced the concept of force and inertia. So now write the definition of this force here. So now write the definition of this force. force is a physical quantity. Force is a physical quantity which changes or tries to change the state of an object. Which changes or tries to change the state of an object. So that means now state of an object means here we are discussing about mechanics. So here state of object means motion or rest. That is taken as a state of this object. And there I also add that which tries or which changes. That means if you are applying certain force on this object, that force may set the or may change the state of an object, may not change the state of an object finally. That means that force may not be sufficient to change the state. So for example, if I am pushing this wall here, if I am pushing this wall, now even though I am applying some force on this, it doesn't move. But still what I am applying is called, that is nothing but, that physical quantity is nothing but force here, because I am trying to displace it, but finally I am failed to displace this object now. So that means such a case is also in that also we call that as a force here, which changes or tries to change. If you are pulling a chair for example, then we can pull the chair easily. And so that now that is called a force. If you are taking a large object, but even though if you are pulling or pushing it, you can't displace that. So that means in that case also we call that as a force only. So that means that is the concept of this force here, right? And then next. So now let us come back to this inertia now. So now let us say this inertia. This new, as I said, this Newton's first law also introduced the concept of this inertia. So now inertia is nothing but, we say, inability of a body to change the state of its own state by itself without any aid of external force here. That means if, as I discussed now, if you are taking a chair for example, that chair will remain at rest, right? So if you won't pull this chair, can chair move by itself? So it is not possible, right? So chair cannot move from one place to another place without any external force there. And so now that inability of this object to change its state of rest or of uniform motion or direction is nothing but we called inertia. So that inability of a body is nothing but we called inertia. And actually there are three types of inertias are there. So just write the definition of first inertia. Inertia, the inability of a body, to change its state of rest, or uniform motion or direction by itself is called inertia. That means actually this inertia is not a physical quantity, but here actually we take that the mass is taken as a measure of this inertia. If mass of object is high, then automatically we say that its inertia is high. Suppose if you are if you are trying to push a small stone and a big stone, then we know we can easily push the small stone when compared to that of a big stone, right? So that means now that is nothing but the big stone is said to be having more inertia. That means it is initially at rest, so it tries to be at rest only. That means here we are defining that inertia as inability to change the state of its body, the state of that object by itself. Or we can also define it as opposition to the change of state here. That property is also nothing but we call inertia. That means we can also define like that. That means if a body is at rest for example, then that body tries to continue at rest only. Even though if you are applying that force, but it tries to continue at the state of this rest only. So that opposition is also nothing but we call that as an inertia here. So that means now when you are comparing the small and big stones, then it is difficult to push the big stone there, right? Because we say that big stone is having that more inertia because its mass is more. So just mention that mass is taken as measure of inertia. Mass is taken as measure of inertia. If mass is more for an object, then its inertia will be more. then its inertia will be more. And next mention that this inertia is of three types. This inertia is of three types. Inertia of rest, inertia of motion, and see this inertia of direction. Inertia of direction, right? So inertia of rest. So the same definition as that of inertia what we defined there. Just we mention that state of rest. That means now we can define it as inability of a body to change its state of rest by itself is called inertia. That means if the body is at rest but it is unable to change its state of rest by itself. That means the object which is at rest can't set into motion by itself unless an external force acts on that, right? And so now that is nothing but we call this inertia of rest here. So write the definition for this inertia of rest. The remaining two you can write by your word. So the inability of a body to change its state of rest, by itself is called inertia of rest. Inertia of rest. Next same inertia of direction. Inertia of motion means the inability of a body to change its state of motion by itself. And similarly, inertia of direction means the inability of a body to change its direction by itself. That means if a body is traveling along a straight line, then it can't change its direction of motion by itself unless an external force acts on it, right? If you want to change the direction of motion of an object, some external force is required to change the direction, then only body can change its direction. So such an inability to change its direction by itself is called inertia of direction here. And you know there are a lot of examples based on for this inertia. I think most of you are known about that. I will remind once again them. So then this inertia of rest means the simple examples what we will say is if you are standing in a bus and if the bus starts suddenly, if you are standing in a bus and a bus starts suddenly, in which direction we will fall? We will fall in backward direction, right? Because our body is initially at rest, right? Now our body continues to be at rest only. That means it tries to continue be in its own state only. So it try to continue in its own state means suppose say if you are considering that if you are standing on a bus, then suppose the bus starts suddenly. When bus starts suddenly, the surface on which we are standing, so that our foot starts moving in forward direction. But our body is initially at rest and so our body tries to continue at rest only. So that our foot is moving in forward direction but our body is trying to be maintain its original state. And so that we fall in backward direction. Body will remain there only but foot is moving in forward direction. So because of that reason we will fall in backward direction there, right? And similarly inertia of motion if we consider here. If we consider this inertia of motion, the same bus example now we consider here. So if you are standing in a bus which is moving with a, let us say, uniform velocity is moving on a straight road. Now if the driver applies the brake suddenly, the bus is already moving with a uniform velocity. If the driver applies the brake suddenly, then in which direction we will fall? We will fall in forward direction. Because you can explain the same way as I explained for the rest, inertia of rest. So our body is already in motion, it is moving with our uniform velocity, right? So our body is trying to maintain its uniform velocity state. But once the driver applies the brakes, the surface on which we are standing will come to the rest, right? That means our foot will come to the rest, but our body is moving. That means our body is trying to move in its own state. and so that our body is trying to move in forward direction, but foot are coming to the rest, and so we fall in forward direction, right? So that is the inertia of motion, we can say. And next we can say this inertia of direction. And we can say inertia of direction means the same bus if suddenly takes a turn here. If you are traveling in a bus, the driver of the bus takes a sudden curve. Then the passengers who are sitting or standing in that bus will be thrown in outward direction, out of the circle. Suppose he is taking a turn like this, then passengers will move in this direction here. That means they experience some force in the direction there. So that is nothing but because of, we call that as inertia of direction. So our body is initially traveling in a straight line here. We are traveling in a straight line, for example. If the passenger, that means if the driver takes a sudden turn, our body is trying to move in our direction, this direction only, straight line only, because initially we are traveling in this direction. So our body continues to be traveling in this direction only. If the bus takes a sudden curve, we want to travel in this direction only, but the platform on which we are standing is moving in this direction, but our body is trying to move in this direction, so that we will experience some force in this direction. That means we will fall in this direction here, or we will feel a push in this direction here, outward direction here. So that is inertia of direction, we can say. And lot of another examples will be there for this inertia. You know all of them. Just we say, like from the morning when we are wake up from the bed, from that only the physics will start in our daily life. So generally we say like this. That is nothing but because if you want to, suppose if when you are wake up from a bed and if you want to fold your bed sheets, if you have a good habit of folding your bed sheets, generally your mother may do at your home. So if you want to fold your bed sheets there, so then before folding that we will remove the dust present on that bed sheets. So in that the principle is nothing but that inertia of rest. So right. So because when you are moving that bed sheet like this, the dust particles which are present on the bed sheet, initially the bed sheet is at rest, right? So those particles will remain at rest here, they try to remain at rest. But when you are moving this bed sheet quickly, then this dust particles will be removed from this, that means they separate from this bed sheet here. Those dust particles will try to remain at rest, but whereas this bed sheet is moving away from that. And so that those dust particles will be thrown out easily by moving that bed sheet quickly. And similarly, suppose if you are placing a cardboard, suppose if you are taking a jar or a bottle, on a bottle if you are taking a cardboard, smooth cardboard on which we are placing some coin. If you are removing this cardboard suddenly, then this coin will fall into that container on which we are placing that. That means if you are taking a container like a jar or a mug, and on this we are placing a cardboard, smooth cardboard, and if you place a coin on that, if you pull the cardboard quickly, then the coin doesn't move along with the cardboard. The coin will fall into that container only, because the coin is initially at rest, so it wants to be continuing at rest only, right? And so that is inertia of rest, another example there. And sometimes suppose if you want to get a fruit from a branch of a tree which is very high when compared to your height, right? Suppose if a mango tree is there, you are going nearby a mango tree and there the mangoes are there at some height. And suppose now if you want to get the mangoes, then generally what we can do is, one of the ways we throw, sometimes we throw some stones, or generally sometimes we, for the small trees we shake some, sometimes we shake the trees, right? So there when you are shaking the tree, there also that principle lies is nothing but inertia principle only. So when you are shaking the branches of the tree, then what will happen is initially the fruit is at rest before you start shaking that. So then even though branches are moving, that fruit will try to maintain its state of rest only. And so that branch is moving and fruit is trying to maintain its state, and so they will separate from that branch there, so that they fall easily when you are shaking that branches there. So there also that example is nothing but that it is, we can explain based on this inertia only. So such a lot of examples will be there based on this inertia here. Or sometimes if you are taking this there will be some theoretical questions they will ask frequently based on this. Suppose here I am taking this block of mass M and this string is A and this string is B, let us consider here, right? Now if you are pulling this string B, now here there are two ways here. If you are pulling the string B suddenly, then which string will break? Either if you are taking that A and B two strings here, if you are pulling this this B suddenly, then the string B will break here, because simply we say the reason we are pulling it B means then this system is initially at rest, so we are not allowing the sufficient time to transfer the force from this one end of this block to the other end of this block here. So then initially it is at rest, we are pulling it means then this end only will break here. Whereas if you are pulling this string continuously, we are pulling that string B slowly and continuously we are pulling it. When you are pulling it continuously, then we are allowing the certain time that so that that force will be transferred to this B also. And then here this we say the tension in the string B is more than that of tension in the string A, because this A has to balance this weight of this block also, and so automatically more tension will be there in this A. And so that then if you are pulling that B steadily, then string A will break there first. If you are pulling it suddenly, then this block is at rest, and so it continues to be at rest only. That means this block doesn't transfer the force from one end to other end if you are pulling it suddenly, and so that only this end will break there. That means string will break in that case, right? So that is the inertia of rest, direction and motion, right? And so next mention that next here mention a sentence here, as this first law introduces the concept of inertia and rest, and we call this law of inertia, this Newton's first law is also called law of inertia. So just mention that Newton's first law is also called the law of inertia. Next, actually there are different types of forces will be there, and we will discuss those types of forces after completing this statement of the three laws, right? And so next let us see about this second law of Newton's second law. And before going to the Newton's second law, let us define one physical quantity called momentum. So let us define this momentum, or it is also called a linear momentum. Linear momentum, or simply you can call this as momentum, and generally we represent with this P. So that means now this momentum is nothing but we can define this momentum as the product of mass and velocity here. So therefore this momentum can be defined as m into v. The product of mass and velocity of object is nothing but we call it momentum, and it is a vector quantity, and so then its direction is same as that of velocity direction here. Just we know this is we are multiplying this vector with a scalar. When you are multiplying with a vector with a scalar or a positive constant, then direction of vector doesn't change, only magnitude of vector changes there. So we discussed already, like suppose if you are writing a bar is equal to m into b bar, where m is some positive constant, then direction of a bar and b bar is same. That means those two vectors are parallel vectors. So here also then this momentum is nothing but in the direction of this velocity we can write here. So next mention the definition. The product of mass and velocity, the product of mass and velocity of an object is called momentum of the object. Is called momentum of the object. So therefore momentum is equal to p bar is equal to m into v bar. So just mention that. Next, momentum is a vector. Momentum is a vector. Its direction is in the direction of velocity. in the direction of velocity. Next, if I write this units momentum, you can write this from this we can write kg meter per second, right? So that is kg meter per second, or you can also express this as Newton into second, because kg meter per second square is nothing but our Newton, which we will define later. So you can also write this as kg Newton into second also you can write here. So generally we write kg meter per second in SI, and in CGS system you can write this as gram centimeter per second. So that is in CGS system there, right? So it is a unit of this linear momentum. If it is having, sometimes the momentum may have these different components there. When velocity is having the different components, then automatically this may have this different components there. Then px I cap plus py j cap plus pz k cap you can consider there, right? And so if the body is at rest, then momentum of the object will be 0. And whenever body is moving, then only that body is associated with that momentum there. That means it measures the motion of it gives the information about the motion of the object there. That means whenever object is moving, then only it possesses certain momentum. So this momentum will gives about the information about the motion of the object here. And so it is given by this product of this mass and velocity. And so now let us come back to this Newton's second law here. So that means now I am writing this second law statement. So the second law states that, so write that statement first. The rate of change of momentum of an object, the rate of change of momentum of an object is directly proportional to the external force acting on it. External force acting on it, and it takes place in the direction of external force. That means the rate of change of momentum takes place in the direction of that force. So then given information is this external force is directly proportional to the rate of change of momentum here. And so that you can write this as this external force is equal to some constant k into dp by dt you can write here, where k is proportionality constant. So where k is a proportionality constant and it is found to be 1 here. So that k value is taken to be 1, that means that is calculated experimentally, and so k value is taken to be 1. Therefore we write this Newton's second law as this external force is equal to dp by dt you can write here. So that is our rate of change of this force, rate of change of momentum is equal to the external force acting on this. So this is the net external force you need to remember here. It is if different forces are acting on this, then you need to take it as a net external force you need to consider there. That means by using our vector principles, we need to find the resultant force, and by using that resultant force you need to write here. Or sometimes they may ask like average. So whenever you are using this differentiation, the differentiation will give us instantaneous values. That means if you want to find the instantaneous force, then this is the formula here. And whereas if you want to find the average force, then total change in momentum by total time interval you need to write here. That means this gives the instantaneous force here. So that means instantaneous force F external is equal to what we are writing, it is dp by dt you can write, right? And then whereas if you want to find average force, that F average is equal to, now just we need to write this as delta P by delta T you need to write. So delta P by delta P is nothing but you can write this as P final by minus, this is vector form only, you can consider like this, P final minus P initial by delta T you can write. So that is the meaning of that average force, final momentum minus initial momentum. If you want to calculate this, how much of force is acting in a certain time interval. If suppose the time interval is, suppose if you are taking like 10 seconds, how much amount of force is acting on that. Then in initial, before that at the 0 t is equal to 0, what is its momentum, and at t is equal to 10 seconds, what is its momentum we need to consider. So that change in momentum by the 10 seconds you need to calculate here. So that gives average force. But whereas if you are calculating, if you are writing the differentiation, rate of change of momentum at that particular instant, then that gives us instantaneous force. That means sometimes they will ask the average force. So in that you need to calculate that. Or if you are writing the magnitude of this average force, simply you need to write the magnitude of the change in momentum you need to consider here. So that means then you can write this as modulus of P final bar minus P initial bar by this delta T you can write. If you are finding this magnitude of that average force there, right? So now here, this sometimes we need to write this in terms of this mass and velocity, that means mass and acceleration we can include here. So now let us write this so now we know this momentum P is equal to m into v you can write, right? And therefore this Fx null we can write this as Fx null is equal to d by dt of m into v. Mass into velocity we are writing. And so here in some problems mass may be variable or mass may be constant. So in some cases that velocity may be variable, or in some cases that velocity may be constant. So that means if mass is constant, then we write the mass outside, then only we differentiate that velocity. In some cases that mass may be variable and velocity may be constant. So that we call variable mass systems. In variable mass system, then velocity will be taken out. In variable mass system, in general velocity will be constant. Otherwise we need to differentiate, just we need to apply that UV formula here for this differentiation if both are variable quantities. But in general when mass is variable, velocity will be constant, then only this mass we differentiate here. So I will write in detail here. So if mass is constant, so if mass is constant, then we can express this as F external is equal to m into dv by dt. Now this dv by dt is nothing but we called acceleration, right? So therefore this we can write this as ma. So now this is nothing but our F is equal to ma form here. So that F is equal to ma means we can write simply by using this equations, Newton's second law statement only, right? So that F is equal to ma. If you want to write in vector form, you can write in vector form. F bar is equal to m into a bar, you can write here, like similar to that of our momentum and velocity relation. So that means now from this we can conclude that the force is always in the direction of the change in momentum. Or here similarly the acceleration will be in the direction of this force, we can conclude here. These two are in same direction if you want to write in vector form. So you can simply write this as F external bar is equal to ma bar, you can write here. There is no change. That means now these two are in same direction. Mass and acceleration, velocity, acceleration and force or external force are in same direction. So acceleration will always take place in the direction of this force. So which is nothing but you can say that in the direction of the change in momentum here, or change in velocity you can write. Change in momentum is nothing but. And now similarly, if suppose if I am taking like if mass is variable, suppose I am writing that if mass is variable, then so in that case we write this F external is equal to, so as I said in such a cases this velocity will be constant here. When mass is variable, like in most of the cases like rocket is an example for variable mass system. when rocket is moving up, because you know the majority of weight of the rocket is nothing but it's the fuel only. So when the rocket is moving up, the consumption of the fuel will decrease. So weight of the fuel goes on decreasing, right? So when weight of the fuel is decreasing, automatically the weight of the rocket also decreases. That means mass of the rocket also decreases. And so then there is a variable system. And similarly, suppose if you are taking like if you are taking some jet of water and it is forcing towards a wall, then that force will act on that wall because of this water. When water is striking that wall, and so that then some force will act on that. So that also you can consider it as a variable mass system. Or in some conveyor belts will be there. And conveyor belts means when some load is falling on that constantly, the belt is moving. Like we can observe in some transport will take place based on that. So that is nothing but a conveyor belt. In many industries we use that conveyor belts there. So some load is falling on that and that belt will move with the constant velocity. So that we can transfer the load from one place to another place in industry purpose. So that means there also this velocity will be constant here. So that means in such a cases, whenever generally if that mass is variable, the velocity will be constant value. So in that case, we will write this Newton's second law in this form here. So V into dm by dt. But more about this we will discuss later. Here just to I am defining the formula here. More about this variable mass system we will discuss separately later. That means in a chapter conservation of momentum and collision. In conservation of momentum, linear momentum topic, we will discuss more about this, right? And so that is about this Newton's second law, Newton's second law here. So we may say it as basically it is rate of change of momentum. So from that we are getting the conclusion like F is equal to ma, or if mass is variable, you can write this as V into dm by dt you can write. And so now here that means Newton's first law will just introduce the concept of force. Newton's second law will give the qualitative information about this force here. Quantitative information about this force. That means how much force is acting on the system. You can calculate by using this Newton's second law. Newton's first law just indicates whether force is acting or not. So from this also now we can get the conclusion like if acceleration of the object is 0, acceleration of the object is 0 means then body is moving with a constant velocity, right? If acceleration is 0, then force is 0. That means no force acts on that. If acceleration is 0, we know already, we discussed already in kinematics that motion is said to be uniform motion when acceleration is 0. That means the body moves with a constant velocity along the straight line. So that is nothing but our Newton's first law statement here. If no force acts on that, the body will continue in its state only. So that means we can get this Newton's first law from the statement of this Newton's second law here. So that means simply what I am saying here is if acceleration is equal to 0, then here we can conclude that external force is equal to 0 by Newton's second law, right? By Newton's second law we can conclude that. And we can also conclude that also A is equal to 0 implies that velocity is constant. That means body moves with the uniform velocity. So now if we combine these two, then that is nothing but our Newton's first law statement here. When no external force acts on the system, the body continues in its state. In its state means here if velocity is constant, if velocity is there initially, it will continue. If velocity is 0 initially, then it remains in the state of rest only. So that is nothing but the statement here, right? And so now here next, let us see the different units of this force here. There are different units of this force are there. So let us define them and let us write those relations among them. So then units of force. So then SI units you can write by using this. Simply you can write by using our simple formula here. So I can write this as by using this F is equal to ma. So from this you can write this as 1 unit, that means that is called SI unit here. SI unit I can write this as kg meter per second square, right? Kg acceleration is meter per second square, or this is also nothing but we call this as Newton, or we can mention this relation as 1 kg meter per second square is nothing but 1 Newton. We represent, when you are writing that, you should write it in capital N. So when you are writing the full form, you should write in small with the small letter here. And next here this CGS unit. The CGS unit of this force is nothing but, you can write this as gram centimeter per second square, or this is also called dyne. So again these two are equivalent only. That means 1 gram centimeter per second square is nothing but 1 dyne we can write. And actually these are said to be absolute units of this force here. What I mentioned here, either CGS units or SI units, those are called absolute units of this force. And so then now here you can write the relation between these CGS units and SI units here. So if I write the relation, then all of you know that. So that means suppose I am writing this 1 Newton is equal to 1 kg meter per second square. You can simply convert this here. This 1 kg means we can write this as 10 cube grams. So that means 1 into kg means 10 cube grams and meter means 10 square centimeter. Second will be same in both CGS and SI units, and so that will remain same here. So that is 1 Newton we can write this as 10 power 5 gram centimeter per second square. This gram centimeter per second square is nothing but we call the dyne. So that 1 Newton is equal to 10 power 5 dynes here. That is conversion from Newton to dyne. And next, similarly, the other type of units will be there here, that we called gravitational units. So these are called actually absolute units here. Absolute units. These units are called both together. And next, the other type of units will be there. Those are called gravitational units. So that gravitational units are nothing but we express in terms of this gravitational force here. And so those are called kg weight and gram weight. So 1 kg weight is equal to, that means kg weight is nothing but kg weight is also the unit of this force here. So that means the units you can mention this as this gravitational units or kg weight and gram weight. Kg weight and gram weight are called gravitational units. Now what is the kg weight means? The gravitational force which acts on a body of mass 1 kg, or if you are taking a body of mass 1 kg, the force with which the earth will attract that body of mass 1 kg is called 1 kg weight. So just mention the definition so that you will get the clarity about that. Kg weight, the force with which earth attracts a body of mass 1 kg, the force with which earth attracts a body of mass 1 kg is called kg weight. Is called kg weight. So 1 kg weight is equal to G newtons. G, that G value is. So either G value may take this value as either 9.8 or 10 you can consider here. That depends on our problem or given data. Sometimes they will mention that. So G value is either 9.8 or 10 meter per second square. And now similarly this is gram weight. Now 1 gram weight is equal to, we say it as a G dyne. This is again G dyne. Now here this G value you need to take in CGS units. 980 or 1000 centimeter per second square. That means now in gravitational units, this is we say MKS or SI you can say, and this will be CGS. It means in gravitational units only, again these are the two types here. That means now the force may be expressed either in terms of Newton or dyne, or they may express in terms of kg or kg weight and gram weight. But finally we convert them into newtons only, generally in numericals. So sometimes they may give the problems in terms of kg weight and gram weights. So then this is a conversion you need to use. So 1 kg weight is nothing but G newtons we need to use, where G is nothing but 9.8 or 10 you may consider. 1 gram weight is nothing but G dynes you need to use. So then it is 980 or 1000 you may consider there. And that is Newton, CGS and SI units there. So that is a different units used for this force here, right? And next that Newton's Third law is there, that I will define in our next class, Newton's Third law.